Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's Pyromancer here, and welcome back to my channel. Hope you're all having a wonderful day, morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are in the world. And today we're going to talk about something I've wanted to discuss for quite some time, and that is pride. And I'm going to tie this in with the Shaw from the Mists of Pandaria expansion. And I want to talk about pride because, well, quite honestly, a lot of us went through Mists of Pandaria, myself included, and paid pretty much zero attention to the Shaw and the lessons that were trying to be taught to us in the Mists of Pandaria. And I think that when you look back on the overall general theme of lore in the Mists of Pandaria, it's about a lot of lessons. A lot of lessons were meant to be learned, not just in regards to the Shaw, but in regards to the August Celestials like Qi and Zuen, Niuzhao, and Yulan. Lessons about wisdom, hope, fortitude, things of that nature, right? So I want to talk about the Shaw today and pride specifically because there are a couple details about pride that I feel are very important, and I think that they are very relevant in the overall theme of WoW when it comes to the grand story that is being told. And as Chris Metzen has definitely reinforced in some of his panels and interviews regarding lore in the past, there is a cosmic war that's going on in WoW. And I think that it's very often overlooked because we have this faction war and things like that, you know, that we have the Alliance and the Horde. We often really just forget entirely that there's a war being fought amongst the gods, right? Amongst the Titans, between Sargeras and between the other Titans. Well, there was a war anyway that is seemingly coming to a very, very rapid conclusion. We'll see how that ends, and I have plenty of videos on that. I'm sure if you've watched my videos before, you're aware of my thoughts on that. But pride is an interesting one, because in the Mists of Pandaria, we go through and we fight many different Shaw. Violence, hatred, anger, fear, doubt, despair, pride. And we learn from a very important character that pride is actually the most dangerous of all the Shaw. And the question that I could pose to you is, why is that? Why is pride the most dangerous of the Shaw? Let's talk about what the Shaw represent real quick. Let's use doubt and fear as an example, and then I'll use pride as an example. So with doubt can be quite a plague on the mind and quite a plague on the emotions. Again, the Shaw are negative kind of representations of overbearing emotions like doubt. Doubt can lead you to essentially give up or not be able to accomplish what really you're truly capable of because you're letting that doubt plague your mind. So you have to be able to overcome those doubts. Fear, for instance, is similar. Fear can cause you to, in some cases, lash out and do terrible deeds, do terrible things, or basically cause you to run away from something that you certainly were capable of facing. And that's the key to your fears. Learning to face your fears is essential, right? But pride is an interesting one because it's difficult to overcome. Pride is not something that you can, in my opinion, just recognize and deal with directly. And I feel this way because sometimes I feel as though pride, as the manifestation of a Shaw, lives within me. And if you've watched my videos, you've seen it. You know. If you follow me on Twitter, you know. If you're a part of my Discord, you know. Some things that pride leads you to do include being not just self-critical, but too hard on yourself because you expect that there can be no mistake. That's some representation of pride. It also can manifest as arrogance. And arrogance is dangerous, and I have been guilty of this before. Arrogance is dangerous because once you slip from pride into unhindered arrogance, you can't be told that you're wrong. Sound familiar? Well, pride becomes very dangerous because it is not always so clear how to tackle it. And like things like anger, you can't just attack the anger. You can't use anger to eliminate anger. You can't use pride to eliminate pride. So you have to find very particular ways to go about it. There is, however, I believe, a time in everyone's life where there is the highest likeliness of being able to overcome their pride. And there are some philosophers, for instance, like Alan Watts, who believes that the quest to overcome one's ego is the largest ego trip of all. That is to say that if you actually think that you can eliminate your pride and your ego, that in and of itself is an egotistical and prideful act and is counterintuitive to the goal which you're trying to accomplish. But there tends to be a time where this is more easily attainable. And that's when you die. How many movies, how many scenes in games, let's use Kill Jaden as an example here, since it's something we're probably all relatively familiar with. When we go through the portal at the bottom of the Tomb of Sargeras and we confront Kill Jaden upon his ship in the Twisting Nether, and he is defeated, he lets go of his pride right in front of Velen. That's such an interesting interaction that happens there, where Kill Jaden is basically saying, I never thought Sargeras could be stopped. I was always envious of your vision. And if Kill Jaden is not being truthful to his title as the deceiver, and he's being honest here, what Kill Jaden is essentially saying to Velen is, you know what, I was wrong, and you were right. And Kill Jaden in his dying moments lets go of his pride. So let's talk about pride and some of the lessons that we've been shown in regards to it. There's a quest line in the game called the Path of Shaohao, if I'm not mistaken. And at the very end of it, there's a point where you go to this mountain in Kunlai Summit in the Missapand area, and you meet up with an NPC named Sir Hao Fan Ru, which is an anagram for Emperor Shaohao. And your task is to guide this older, almost decrepit kind of sage up the mountain to the top. And as you journey up, you get these quotes. And some of the quotes include lessons about fear and pride. Now, if you guys don't know, there is a short story animated series on YouTube for the Burdens of Shaohao, where it goes over how Shaohao was traveling around Pandaria and faced things like fear and anger and doubt. And it is so good. I'll have a link to the whole series in the description. Please go watch it. They're only a couple minutes long a piece, but it goes through all of them, and it culminates and finishes with this realization that Shaohao has. And it's very important. I think you guys would love to listen to those. If you like to listen to my videos, I think you'd really like those. But it's a really great little series. Go check it out. But some of the quotes include this, and the traveler, the adventurer, us, doesn't know, of course, that this is Shaohao. Here's some of the quotes. Ha! Do not get angry with the elements. Violence is their nature. I conquered my own anger long ago. Interesting that it says there that violence is the nature of the elements. I want to kind of touch on that because isn't it said in Chronicle that when the elements were back in primordial Azeroth, they waged war against one another? And it's also said that the Titans had disdain for the unruly nature of the elements. Surely gods and Titans of the universe, creators and shapers of worlds, would be able to recognize the naturally violent nature of the elements. But perhaps the spirit of life is able to pacify and quell said violence. Moving on. My, you are strong. When I was young, I might have doubted that we could do this, but now I have no doubts at all. Such wind, such cold. Once it would have filled these old bones with despair. But on this day I am filled with hope. Despair and hope being tied to one another. Such a patient one. When I was young, I would have hated this task. Nowadays I'm filled with love. Love and hatred. So thin a line between the two. And something that I think is really important among the ranks of the Pantheon as well. Specifically with ANR and Sargeras. Do not fear the heights as I did when I was young. Fear can drive us to terrible deeds. But I see that like me, you have learned the lessons of courage. This is so good. I love these. Ah, here we are. Oh, these old bones are tired. More than you can imagine. You surprised me. I expected a hero such as yourself to balk at the task of carrying an old man up a mountain. Most are too proud. I was going to teach you a lesson, but instead, it is you who have taught me. You see, when I was young, I was Emperor! And then he turns into Emperor Shaohao as a visage of the past emperor right in front of you. This is where the most important quotes come in. The realm you see around you was mine to command. I conquered my doubts, my fears, my anger. I buried all of it within the land. But I held on to one vice. The Shah I never conquered. Pride! My pride cloaked this land in mists. I thought we were better than the rest of the world. I thought we could solve our own problems. But for 10,000 years, we stagnated. Our doubts and fears buried in the land, rising up to fester whenever we allowed them. Pride. It is the most insidious of Shah. It is good until it is bad, and then it is more dangerous than all of the others combined. Beware of pride. Be humble. And there are some who think that this quote right here is actually a subtle prediction and nod to the general happenings of BFA so far. The world is plunging into chaos. Old enemies must work together. Proud races must admit they need help. Things are going to get worse before they get better. Only by working together can we overcome the darkness. All that stands in our way is pride. Such a good little segment that a lot of people don't remember, which is understandable. Mists of Pandaria was a hell of a lot of fun to play. I didn't spend so much time reading. But this line here, the world is plunging into chaos. Sargeras plunging his sword into the world, causing unarguable chaos. Old enemies working together. The Kulterans and the Alliance. Proud races admitting that they need help. The Zandalari trolls. Now, whether you subscribe to that idea or not is secondhand. There are some who think that that is a nod to what's happened in BFA. And given the, in my opinion, existing focus on some of these elements of the Shah, for instance, Queen Azshara and her pride. Oh, it is so evident. So much is she exerting her pride. And she even says, consider yourselves lucky or honored or something of that nature to face my pride. Queen Azshara is one of, if not the most proud character I've ever seen in the game. We have this emphasis on fear, I think. And I think that that personally is kind of hinted at Sylvanas, or maybe even hatred or anger. And then we have wrath, which you could see as anger. And that is through Jaina. Is he the bomb this time? But anyway, the Warbringers, I think, have an emphasis on some of these emotions, overbearing emotions. But I want to talk even a little bit more about this because, you see, the story goes that the seven-headed god, the seven-headed serpent, Y'Shaarj, plagued the land of Pandaria when aman'thul, who for some reason is, as a titan, people think is on the same power level as the old gods. Simply not true. We've seen Sargeras. He is gigantic beyond comprehension. The old gods are not of the same power level as the titans, and this is a great illustration of that fact. Aman'thul reaches down and rips Y'Shaarj out of the world, sundering the earth's crust and causing a grievous wound to Azeroth that would later be known as the Well of Eternity. But when he does so, in Y'Shaarj's final breath, he cursed the land of Pandaria. with what we now know as the Shah. Now, as a side point, Lumino, one of my mods on my stream and in my Discord, has pointed out to me the likeliness, based on the Hearthstone art, that Y'Shaarj was actually akin to a cloud serpent that we saw in Mists of Pandaria. Long, serpentine, dragon-like entities with whiskers and often jewelry, 4 legs with little claws that kind of hang down. And based on the art that you see of Y'Shaarj from Hearthstone, it would seem that Y'Shaarj may in fact have been something very similar and akin to a cloud serpent. And we don't know the direct and true origins of a cloud serpent, do we? Moving on. It is said that he breathed out the Shah, and that's what we now know as the Shah. But you see, there seems to be another potential explanation for where Shah could have come from. And in all of this, aman'thul completely destroyed Y'Shaarj, allegedly. However, the Dark Moon Fair's logo is very, very similar to the overall theme of Y'Shaarj as well. I'll put those up on the screen for you. But there's an encounter in the Siege of Orgrimmar that's also very important, 2 of them in fact. The Amalgamation of Corruption, or Norushen encounter, and the Shah of Pride encounter. Let's start off with the Norushen encounter. Norushen is a Titan Keeper who is meant to watch over the facility that could actually, allegedly, cleanse some of the corruptions of the Shah out of you. But how are the Titans doing that? Let's read about it. So this is some of the dialogue from the Norushen encounter. Norushen says to the players, "Should you pass this door at this time, you would fail. You, all of you, are corrupted with the insidious plague known as pride. You stand tall and proud atop your accomplishments, and this will be your downfall. Should you wish to defeat the corruption, you will first need to purify the corruption within yourselves. Speak to me again when you are prepared to face your inner demons." This already to me is relatively alarming. Purify the corruption, huh? I've heard of the Titans and their constructs trying to purify things before, like G'huun, and it didn't work out very well for them. Face your inner demons. I love how they call them that. My eternal vigil has kept the corruption of pride at bay. To face this corruption yourself, you must purify yourselves in the burning light. This process will not go easily for you. Stop. We're going to use light to try to cleanse and purify corruption of pride out of ourselves? Oh dear. May I remind you that pride is often associated with forces of light in other mythologies and religions. For instance, the downfall of angels was mostly, usually, due to pride. Oh, how about the Scarlet Crusade and their use of the light to go around and eradicate the undead? Kind of a prideful act there as well. No concept of empathy, no concept of compassion, absolute extermination. And Balnazar played on that heavily. Pride is often associated with forces of the light, not just in WoW. Norushen continues, "Very well. I will create a field to keep your corruption quarantined. Prove yourselves worthy, and I will let you pass. The light cleanses, but it is not gentle. Gird yourselves and be purified." And then you do the encounter, and as you're doing the encounter, you're picking up these motes of light, and you're fighting this amalgamation of corruption that has been spawned from within you. A very key thing. Before we ever even interacted with the Shah of Pride, we already had pride. Naturally, everyone has at least a little bit of pride, but we purged it out of ourselves, allegedly, with the light, and we fought this Shah-like amalgamation. That should be relatively frightening, because what that to me illustrates is that the Titans tried, at least, to use divine forces to purge this stuff out of things. So as the story is told in its final breath, Y'Shaarj breathed out the Shah. Is that really true? Or did the Titans do something to try to purge these things out of Y'Shaarj, thus causing the Shah, the same way that they have tried to do with mortals like us? It's a good question. Moving on, this is what Norashen says. Before we enter the Shah of Pride chamber, you have been judged and proven yourselves worthy, so he thinks that it worked. But be warned, what lies beyond will try your souls to their utmost. When you are fully prepared, you may enter the chamber. As we enter, there are little fragments of the Shah of Pride spawning all about, and as you may have noticed, after fighting all of the different Shah throughout the expansion, they have pretty unique color schemes. Green, black, and white. Black and white. Red, purple, and white for the Shah of Fear. But the Shah of Pride is a little interesting. He has a pretty unique color scheme, and that is blue and white, very specific to the Shah of Pride. They're all around the room, fighting, or running around. So this is what Norashen says. We need to kill them. Just kill the Pride. Just fight it until it dies. Okay. But interacting with Shawlings of Pride surely is going to expose us to the Shah of Pride, would it not? Thus, just bringing Pride right back into us, even if the purification process that is being done with light, once again, I will remind you, worked. So you try to do all of this stuff that Norashen and presumably the Titans thinks is going to remedy your Pride. You go in, you kill all these little Shawlings, and this is what Norashen says. It did not matter. It comes. Steel your hearts and prepare your souls. And the Shah of Pride comes out and says, come, face me. Give in to your pride. Show me your greatness. And as you fight the Shah of Pride, he has some interesting quotes like, your arrogance compels you. Your arrogance feeds me. Succumb to your pride. And one of, if not the most important line from the Shah of Pride. You've let your pride cloud your vision, Titan puppet. You can never contain me. That is really important because what he's saying is that pride, as an overbearing force of emotion upon Norashen and upon us, has clouded our vision, and pride cannot be contained. As Emperor Shaohao puts out there, he couldn't even overcome his pride. Some of the Zandalari characters are good instances of that. While Varian had some anger-related issues, pride was also, in some cases, an issue for Varian. Characters like Kil'jaeden had issues with pride. A lot of light-oriented characters have issues with pride, and I'm worried that one very important little lion may let his pride overcome him if he's not careful. But the vision, you've let it cloud your vision, Titan puppet. At the end of Antorus the Burning Throne, when you defeated Argus the Unmaker, and you collected the bounty of the Titans as your loot, you could get these epic trinkets. And there was one that was a legendary trinket. And the one that was legendary was aman'thul's vision. Aman'thul, one of the Titans with golden yellow eyes, who I think is definitely a little bit blinded by pride, is the one who has the legendary trinket, aman'thul's vision. And I think pride has definitely clouded the vision of the Titans. Before I talk a little bit more about that, there are some quotes that you can read from Xal'ataut, the desecrated image of Gorehowl, because it's a weapon that whispers to you. Now, Garrosh had the weapon Gorehowl, obviously. But when Garrosh found the Shah of Pride, he actually left Gorehowl in that room. It's actually there stuck in the ground. And when we fight Garrosh, he has this desecrated image of Gorehowl. It's not actually Gorehowl, but it's a weapon, a sentient weapon manifestation of pride. And when you look at Garrosh, as he becomes more powerful throughout his phases, it's very clear that pride is what is directly influencing him the most. He has the same color scheme as pride, the bright yellow eyes. And the eyes of the Shah of Pride are bright yellow. In fact, it's the only Shah that has eyes like that as well. And again, as this literal embodiment of the Shah of Pride as his weapon, Xal'ataoth says, eyes are the windows to the soul, shutter them forever. And one of the other most prideful characters in the game, Queen Azshara, also has golden eyes. As I've emphasized many, many times in many videos over quite a long time, eyes are very important because they can reveal a truth about the soul of someone that cannot any other way be hidden, like rage with Sylvanas and with Gul'dan. They had the rage within them that is certainly shown through the truth in their eyes. Again, aman'thul in his vision being clouded by pride, his eyes literally being golden, blinded by the light, if you will, blinded by this pride. So let's read some of the quotes. And this is what Xal'ataoth can say to you. You should kill them all. You must kill them all. Eyes are the windows to the soul. Shutter them forever. Pluck their wings. Leave them broken. Pay the cost of greatness. All should bow before you. Make them. All that you have accomplished. All that you have won. Yet still you lick the boots of kings. Carve more slowly, that I may feed. Embrace your rage. Caress your fear. Gorge your hatred. Voice your doubts. When you walk among the black forest, you will see. I can taste the essence of your soul. It is sweet. And some things he says when you die. With each thread unraveled, a step closer to my realm. Another blemish on your soul. You will rest in Ny'alotha. Pride is very dangerous. And we saw what the influence of pride can lead characters like Garrosh to do. Garrosh, again, another very proud character. Another character who has golden eyes. They don't glow quite like Queen Azshara's with that magical divine essence, if you will. But gold nonetheless. And then there's something really peculiar that was noticed at the seat of the Pantheon. And remember how I emphasized earlier that each Shah has a very specific color scheme. We're talking green, black and white, red, purple, black and white. But for the Shah of Pride, again, it's like a light blue and white. Well, the Argus fight used virtually no previous assets. Almost every single thing in the Argus fight, from models to animations, was completely built from the ground up. In fact, I've had the privilege to speak directly to one of the game designers who actually helped design the animations for Argus and his attacks. And there's one reused asset, if I'm recalling this correctly, in the Argus the Unmaker fight. And that is the little Shawlings that are running around after Argus kills you and you release into the spirit world, and you see these little Shawlings running around. But again, Shah are very specific in their color. And I don't think that what I'm about to tell you was done on accident. If you line your camera up so that the Shah are in line with the little tree that you use to resurrect yourself, you can see the color of the Shah. They're not black and white and gray. They're light blue and white, just like the same color scheme of the Shah of Pride. That could be coincidental, but I very much doubt that it is. They could have used any of the color of the Shawlings, any of them. Black and white would have been just fine. But no, they chose that one specifically. And I don't think that's a coincidence. There's one other thing I want to tell you about Pride. The Titans in WoW, in many different ways, can be tied to other gods and other mythologies. And I want to reinforce this idea that the Titans in WoW are gods. When you compare an old god to a Titan, there is no comparison. There's no evidence to suggest that whatever a Void Lord is, that it is more powerful than a Titan either. In fact, when you look at all of the deities in WoW, from something as measly as a Loa or Wild God, through an old god up to a loon and above to a Titan, there's nothing that's above Titans. We saw Sargeras. He was absolutely massive. He was bigger, almost, than our world. We're talking cosmic warrior that has existed for God knows how long, no pun intended. And we're talking about aman'thul, a being that has potentially existed since the beginning of time. These are the top and most powerful level of entities in World of Warcraft, except Azeroth, in my opinion. I put that out there because they are very closely associated in different ways to gods in the Greek mythology, with Sargeras being somewhat akin to Ares, for instance, right? Or aman'thul being akin to Zeus, or Aenar being akin to Aphrodite or Hera, which is fucking terrifying, by the way, because she was a manipulative, psychotic bitch. But in ancient Greek religion, there's a god known as Nemesis Goddess. The word Nemesis originally meant the distributor of fortune, neither good nor bad, simply in due proportion to each according to what was deserved. That is to say, that Nemesis, in an unbiased fashion, gave justice to whatever the crime that had been committed was. Later, Nemesis came to suggest the resentment caused by any disturbance of this right proportion, the sense of justice that could not allow it to pass unpunished. So Nemesis was essentially the bringer of justice, the one who corrected the crimes and gave due subjugation, or not subjugation really, the due process, if you will, the punishment for these actions. It says here, Nemesis is the goddess who enacts retribution, something heavily tied to paladins, against those who succumb to hubris, arrogance before the gods. Another name is Adrastea, meaning the inescapable. And this, to me, reminds me a hell of a lot of Sargeras. Because if what I'm saying is right, and the Titans' vision was clouded by pride, and something about what they were doing in the cosmos really and truly was wrong. Like, I don't know, perhaps the creation of the old gods and the subjugation of Argus and Azeroth and their imprisonment in 2 prison worlds. Those are 2 totally different videos, though. Sargeras saw it. And as the greatest warrior and champion of the Pantheon, and as Nemesis, even though Nemesis is a goddess, had to bring them to justice. It wasn't about what Sargeras thought was good and evil. It was about the fact that the Titans fell to the greatest sin that there is. They fell to the most powerful essence of what a Shah can resemble, and that is pride. They became arrogant. And the punishment for hubris in the Greek mythology, death is the punishment for hubris, arrogance before the gods, and perhaps even arrogance of the gods. And so what I'm saying to you, in short, is that pride is very, very dangerous, even for gods who think that they can use the holy light to cleanse it out. What a prideful act in and of itself. Titan puppet. You've let pride cloud your vision. You can never contain me. And what a prideful thought it is to believe that you ever could. But there is a way that we can let go of our pride. And it is coming soon to a theater near you. No, I'm just kidding. But we're all going to die. And regardless of whether or not these Shadowlands leaks are real or not, I will stoutly and resolutely remain by that opinion that we are all going to die at some point and go to the Shadowlands. Hell, perhaps the Horde all dies and the Alliance does not. They stay on the surface for what is to come. That being the light, in my opinion. It's all in the Titan Pantheon's control now. We could just cross our fingers and hope that he who walks this earth once more, he who gifted our flesh, and he who is the ultimate driving force of mortals, the ultimate collector of their souls, can get the job done before the Titans can do what they plan to do. Because we're in a lot of trouble, as I've been saying for quite some time. But it is not yet time, though it shall be soon. That's all I have for you. If you guys enjoyed this video, please make sure to hit the like button, as it's the best way to let me know that you enjoy my content here on YouTube. And hit the subscribe button if you're new to my channel. I really would appreciate that. And I think you guys may enjoy some of my previous videos, and hopefully will enjoy some of the stuff that I'm coming out with here in the future. If you guys don't know, I do stream on twitch.tv. It's twitch.tv/Pyromancer. I don't stream as much as I used to. I'd like to stream more. And when patch 8.2.5 goes live, I will be streaming that. I also do have a Twitter, twitter.com/PyromancerSarg. S-A-R-G. You guys can follow me there. I do tweet about lore-related things there. Obviously, every once in a while, just some personal stuff, personal rants, pictures, whatever. And the last thing I'd like to let you guys know about, if you would like to contribute, is I do have a Patreon at patreon.com/Pyromancer, where you can throw $1, $2, $5, $10, whatever dollars towards me every month. Helps me pay the bills, helps me get extra equipment for the channel, like this beautiful, awesome camera that we have now. And I really appreciate that. So there'll be a link to all of those things down in the description below. But with that all being said, I appreciate you guys very much. Thank you so much for watching this video. Stay awesome. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Peace.